Hey guys, we just finished our Zoom meeting, but I wanted to go over this in case it wasn't clear and for those of you who did not attend. So we did two things in our meeting, and the first thing we did was go over our rough draft for our letter writing activity. So first, I assigned everybody their partner, and I'm sending you a letter in the mail with an envelope with a stamp on it. Next week, we're going to go over how to address an envelope. On that envelope, you will write the address of the person who you are sending your letter to. I will have that address in your envelope, in your letter. However, I'm not writing it on the envelope because I want you to practice writing how to address a letter. So on the envelope, again, we'll go over it again next week, but in the middle, you're going to write the address of the person, the name of the person and the address of where you're sending the letter to. And in the corner, so for example, if this is my envelope, you would write their name and address here in the middle. On the top right corner, you would write your name and your address. That's called the return address. And then in the left, Miss Freeman is mixing up her left and rights. So in the left corner, you would write your name and your address, so your name and the return address. And in the right corner, we would have a stamp. So that way, that's called the postage, what you pay to mail your letter. So your partners are Stella and Anna, Celeste and Keiry, Maria and Aranza, Jesse and mi amor, David and Jayden, Manuel and Nathan M, Nathan B and Diego, Conor and Henry, and Sebastian and Leonel. So those are the ones that you're going to write your letter that you're going to practice writing with me. And you can write to other friends if you would like. You'll just have to ask them or ask me for their address. I only gave you one envelope with one stamp. So your parents would have to give you another envelope and another stamp. And also, if you would like to write back to me in response to my letter, then you'll also have to get another envelope and another stamp. Because I've written every single one of you a postcard, which I showed you is slightly different than a letter because you would be writing everything on the side that the post office and the mail carrier would see. So you don't want to write anything that's personal that you don't want other people to read. And there's no envelope. There's oftentimes no envelope. In my postcard, it's not the kind that you mail usually. So I had to put it inside an envelope instead of writing it on the outside of the envelope. Of the postcard. So, and we also talked about there are different kinds of letters. You can make a card for someone and it wouldn't be as formal and you wouldn't have to write all the parts of the letter. So here is my rough draft. And I got my rough draft from my brainstorm that I did last week. And I will send this document again to everyone just in case you misplaced it or need a refresher. All of this information goes inside the body of our letter, which is the meat or all of the information that you are giving to your classmate that you are writing to. So we start with the heading, which is the date, and that will be in the top right-hand corner of your letter. So I wrote today's date, which is April 29th, and we know that we learned about commas. The comma goes after the number in the date, 2020. Then I have to go to the left side of the letter of the page and write my greeting. Dear Mrs. Miss Reyes. Now I made two mistakes, and that's okay on our rough draft. Our rough draft is now making sure we put it in the correct format and that we have all the so that's all the pieces, the heading, the greeting, the body, the closing, and the signature. And we're making sure that our spelling is okay if we make mistakes, but we're going to make the corrections on our spelling so that way we have it correct on our final draft. Now you're going to use lined paper, and that's what I showed you in our meeting, but that was a little hard to see, so I wrote it on not lined paper. And when you write your rough draft, you're going to skip lines so that way there is room for me to correct your mistakes. And again, it's okay to make mistakes. As you see, I have made mistakes. You want to make sure that your greeting starts with an uppercase letter, and mine does not. So I'm going to change this dear, this lowercase d. I'm going to cross it out, and I'm going to write an uppercase D above it, and I'm also going to change the M in Miss Reyes to an uppercase M because it is a name. So again, uppercase to begin your greeting, and then a comma at the end. And make sure that you use uppercase letters for all names. Also, at the beginning of each sentences should be an uppercase letter. So then I'm going to start the body of my letter. And I tried to leave space for my corrections, but it was a little hard since I didn't use lined paper. The first thing we have to do is put 2 fingers and indent the first sentence, which is, I miss you a lot. Already, I see another mistake. I spelled the word miss wrong. And in our meeting, I accidentally forgot to correct this mistake. So that's why it's also important to reread. That means read again. The prefix re is a part of word that we put at the beginning of a word, and that re means that to do it again, to read again. So that way we can catch any mistakes that we may have made. So I'm going to add that extra S in miss. I miss you a lot. Since we have been out of school, I have done a lot of things. I have a question mark there. It's not asking a question, so I want to change this punctuation to a period. And here, I'm going to answer the first question that I wrote on my brainstorm, which was name 2 to 3 things you have done while we're out of school. I have watched TV, gone outside, and eaten a lot of food. So that's 3 things. And now I need to make any corrections that I see in that sentence. I have to change this I to an uppercase I. And I need to use my comma rule. We know that if we have 3 or more objects in a list, we need to put a comma between each of those. I have a comma after watch TV, but I don't have one after gone outside. So I need to add a comma here. And eaten a lot of food. I'm excited about that, so I put an exclamation point. And I'm sorry that I'm not pointing exactly. It's very hard to do when you're not looking at what you're pointing at and looking in the computer. So the thing I miss most, which is number 2 on our brainstorm, the thing I miss most about school is being with all of the students. And I could put a period or an exclamation point. I decided to just put a period here. There are some things I haven't done yet that I still want to do. Again, this is question number 3. I want to organize my basement and get more sleep. There, I only listed 2 things, so I don't need a comma. I have 2 questions for you. And that's question number 4. So now I will have filled in everything on my brainstorm. And if I choose to, I can add more after that, but I did not. So my questions are, if you could pick anyone in the world, in the whole wide world to be quarantined with, who would it be? And I put a question mark because it is a question. Now, then I wrote sincerely, which is my closing, and a comma, and Miss Friedman, my signature. I made a mistake because I told Miss Reyes that I'm asking her 2 questions, but I only wrote 1 question. So now I have to go back and look in my brainstorm to write that second question, or it doesn't make sense that I'm telling her 2 questions. She's going to be looking for another question that wasn't there. So I'm going to write that second question, which was, what is, and your questions may be, or probably something different. And that's okay because you want your letter to be something special that you have written, not just copying what I write. What is something you can do to help others while we are home? And again, I could add more. I could say something like, I can't wait to see you again. Please stay healthy and safe. And that wasn't on my brainstorm, but that's okay to add to your letter. All I want to make sure is that you have at least what I told you to put in your brainstorm. Please stay healthy and safe. Now, when I wrote my letter, my handwriting wasn't the neatest. And that's okay, but you want it to be neat enough that the person can read it. On your rough draft, you want to make sure you're using your best handwriting so that way the reader can read it, because there won't be someone to help to fix the mistakes when that person gets that letter. Now, on your rough draft, if it's a little sloppy, I can say, let's pretend there was a child in our class, because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but let's pretend there was a person in our class named Sally. Okay, Sally, your hand, I can't read what you wrote. Does that say big, or does that say another word? And it wouldn't make sense if you read it incorrectly. So you want to make sure that it is correctly written, so that way I don't change something that was correct, and then your letter won't make sense when you do your final draft. So again, I've written the body of my letter, and that's the part that has the most writing in it. The heading is just the date. The greeting is just dear and the person's name with a comma. The body has most of the sentences and is indented. And then we have on the right side, sincerely, or some other type of closing, like from, love, your friend. And then you write your signature, which is just your name. So I hope that this was a little bit more helpful, and that you enjoyed seeing your friends during the meeting, because it was really great to see Maria for the first time. And I'm proud of you. For those of you that participated, you did a great job, and thank you for being respectful to those that were sharing. And thank you for also letting me know when you weren't able to hear me or see me. That was helpful. So have a great day. And if you need any more help, don't hesitate to come to my office hours between 1 and 2:30 today. Bye, guys.